this computer. Wonderful. Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking time to attend this town hall meeting regarding the big book sale and what's happening at Calgary Reads. About, I guess it was a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, Stacy wanted to have a chat with Madeline and I, and she said, listen, this is what we think we'd like to do. And we'd like to offer the Rotary Club of Calgary the opportunity to be a big player in the early childhood literacy space right here in Calgary by taking on the big book sale, the proceeds of which would go to early childhood literacy projects and organizations right here in Calgary. And both our eyes popped out of our brains going, whoa. And of course, that's why we were promoting the big book sale at the club, asking people to go and volunteer, to have the experience of the big book sale so that we can have a great discussion about how does this fit into the club, how and the benefits, not only in the sphere of early childhood literacy, but the benefits to the club in terms of an event that would really gel us together and build club membership as well. So this morning, Stacy will be presenting what is happening at Calgary Reads and the dandelion strategy for moving forward. And then Steve Allen is going to talk a bit about how great that is for the club. Randy will talk about, we'll get into the weeds of how it would actually fit right into the club.
Hi.
And hello, John. And maybe Kurt, if you want to summarize what you shared last night about the workshop, the Rotary workshop that you heard about and how that also aligns with this. But afterwards, we'll have the discussion, which is way more important. Last night, we had some very interesting discussion about continuity and governance. And these are great ideas moving forward that we need to explore before the club says, yes, let's do this. So anyway, without further ado, I will pass the floor on to Stacy, who will give you all of the details about this dandelion strategy for moving forward. Go ahead, Stacy.
Good morning, everyone. Let me just get set up here. I don't think I've slept all night because of that conversation last night. I was so excited by the direction that it went in and all the ideas that it seeded in my brain. So I feel this morning, when I go to bed at night, I always have a pad of paper beside my bed because this is where I do some of my best thinking when I sit up at 2 in the morning and have to write in the dark. And then in the morning, I have to try to figure out what was this good idea that I had. And I think it affirmed for me last night how amazing it will be if Rotary carries this legacy, because you come with fresh eyes, good questions. And today I'm going to back up now from that and let you know a little bit about what is happening with Calgary Reads and who are the other partners that we are divesting of our assets and some of our hopes about what will happen going forward. So Calgary Reads has been operating in Calgary for the past 22 years. Our roots actually began in the Junior League of Calgary, a women's service organization, and I take great pride in the origins, and I think it's coming full circle if we come back into a service club to see our next chapter. I hope at the end that people don't go away thinking that Calgary Reads is broke or disheartened or couldn't continue. This is very much a strategic direction, a next iteration of us, a way to scale and grow and ensure more children have services. And the pandemic has really pushed us to think differently and to ponder change. So our board began probably over a year ago now thinking about the future and how could we scale our much needed programs? What would succession look like? I'm pretty intertwined with Calgary Reads as the founder. How could we do more, because the problem of childhood literacy was just getting more complex. We have always provided evidence-based programming, and we rely on research across the country to guide our work. This piece of work that's called the 30 million word gap is incredibly important because it pulls out the very important understanding that children growing up in poverty are growing up in word poor environments, and this is the root of some of what goes on to play out for them. We are also seeing word gaps show up in middle upper class because of technology and working parents and all kinds of complexity. So the gap is very big, millions and millions of words, and the pandemic, with children not going to school, the pandemic not giving people access to other neighbors and friends and family, just has increased this problem for young children before they even get to school. This is also research from Alberta researchers, and 1 in 5 families have lost their income. Lots of families have a decline in income. This puts stress on the household. Mothers in particular are a good indicator, often to academic achievement, and all kind mental health is very much based on the well-being of the maternal parent. And these are not good numbers, as women have been particularly impacted, experiencing depression and really worried about what's showing up in inability to socialize, to self-regulate, to articulate emotions. These children, all of this is combined into adverse child development, and literacy is a core component of that, just as literacy is one of the 10 social determinants of health. And many, many families have been struggling with having to keep their kids home when they are sick, lots of learning loss going on. And the University of Alberta has studied this as well. And the shutting down or the absenteeism of children in schools has resulted in months and months, in some cases years, of children lagging behind. So we're $1.5 million organization trying to figure out what is our role, how do we contribute to the complexity of this problem, what is our piece within the system. Schools, just as we've pulled out, the depression of mothers, teachers are also really suffering during this time with their own mental well-being, and good teachers and good parents are integral to children's education and them successfully learning. In Canada, the numbers have been bleak for a very long time. Actually, Canada is one of the top international countries that's declining in its literacy rates, while the majority of countries who used to lag behind us are now uplifting. And most people don't believe that so many children, a quarter of our kids, are growing up in homes without a single book. And many children are starting school with literacy deficiencies, and then they just can't catch up. The brain stores all this talk, all the vocabulary, all the literacy-rich environment that you hope a child is growing in. And though children who experience that continue to go on and thrive, they graduate, they get a job, they have less chance of going to jail. And I think sometimes once we know how to read, we forget that there are far too many people who struggle. 49% of Canadians can't read beyond a grade 5 level. And the deeper you're able to read, the better thinker you are, the more you vote and volunteer, the more you contribute back to society, and the more empathy you have. So these are the kinds of people that we want to grow, and these are the kinds of people that can turn our economy around. If anybody wants more information about some of these statistics, this is a really amazing Canada research piece, came out in 2020, done by Deloitte, and it does not paint a good picture. There is a big problem, and I'm very glad that Rotary is interested in finding a way to contribute to the solution. So We now need to become the greater we. We're down to 3 staff at the moment because our staff, as we transition our programs, are going to the receiving organizations. And we've always prided ourselves not just in delivering programs, but in actually being a movement, inspiring community to get involved, engaging thousands and thousands of people in the cause in all kinds of volunteer ways. And somehow we have to keep this reading revolution alive so that all children do have the right to read. All children get exposure to words and books very early. Children need to be able to have their own books, why we have a book bank, why the book sale is so integral to our community being a literate place. It's very hard to buy a book for $1 or $2, and this is the pricing at the book sale. And on Friday or Monday, we have a big free day where thousands of books will go back out into our community at no cost through our agency partners and schools. It really does take a village, and we need to broaden the village and help people fight for the rights of kids to read. We've been working with many of these partners, trying to embed literacy solutions and strategies within these key organizations, especially those that serve furthest from opportunity families. I'm very proud of the partnerships and the connections that we have formed over 22 years. It's still not enough. We need to keep adding more people, more organizations, and more processes and practices into the village. So because of the magnitude of the problem, because of the competitiveness of the sector, because of many, many situations, we've decided to enter into a restructuring process. We began with considering being acquired by Frontier College, which is a 120-year-old national literacy organization. We spent 7 months in due diligence, and finally at the end of it, just before Christmas, we pulled out, saying that they could not deliver what we needed them to deliver in our community, and we had to go back to the drawing board and figure out a different strategy. You'll never read about the dandelion in a business book, at least not yet. Maybe someday you will. We're calling our strategy the dandelion story, and people love or hate a dandelion. We do think they are the flower of wishes, and we are blowing on the seed head, which is Calgary Reads going to seed, scattering our seeds across a variety of very incredible, well-respected and trusted partners in Calgary and also in Canada. These are those partners who have agreed to carry forth our legacy, and I'll quickly tell you who they are, so I hope you feel like you would be in good company. Starting with our earliest program, the Canadian Children's Literacy Foundation, which is a Toronto-based organization founded by Heather Reisman, who owns Indigo. They are taking our Read With Me program, which we've run for the last 8 years. In this program, we train nurses about key messages to share with parents, and babies are gifted a brand new free book when they come in for their immunizations. And Canadian Children's Literacy Foundation is going to scale this program all across Canada. Very exciting. The LENA program, we are the only Canadian license holder for this incredible technology, which involves a talk pedometer that measures the numbers of words, the quality of the conversational back and forth turns that build brains in little toddlers and babies. Parents receive the data. They also receive a program that gives them talking tips. We're seeing huge change in the levels of readiness for school through these children. The license and this program and our staff are going over to the YW, who was one of our first partners implementing this program alongside us. They have much more capacity with a fund development department and greater reach, also national connections, and LENA is well on its way and has headed off to the Y. We are still bringing Frontier College into the community. They've never been in Calgary before because we were in the market, and they will provide all kinds of new programming for children, youth, and adults. And we are also gifting them a large percentage of our digital resources that we have designed and developed over the last 22 years. so they can share them in their volunteer portal. Our school-based programs, which are the big part of the heart of Calgary Reads, we read, many people have participated in this program, reading aloud to children, both in person and now digitally during the pandemic. And Read Up is a tutoring program that works with children in grade 1 and 2. These two programs are going to Big Brothers, Big Sisters. They will continue to call them these things. People will be invited to come back, to continue to volunteer. They too have much more strength than we do to increase the number of volunteers that they process on an annual basis, which is good news for schools and children who need this early support. We also have embedded the tutoring program within Mount Royal University's education program. So all second year students will now be trained in the Read Up and will be matched for a whole year with children. And this will hopefully help them be better prepared when they do graduate to be the best teachers of reading. And the Little Red Reading House in Inglewood, which many people have come to know and love, we are gifting this asset along with the very funky van that you'll see at the barbecue, and all of the reading places that we've built in community and some of our early years resources. This is all going to the Awerco Center. Many people don't even know what the Awerco Center is at the University of Calgary. It is under the Cummings School of Medicine, and the Awerco researchers focus on literacy, language development, mental health, and child development of children and youth. We'll be continuing to provide services as we have. Families can visit, schools come for field trips, daycares come for story time, but they will also add a level of rigor and research, and we will be turning this into a community-based literacy lab for the scientists to get off the campus of university, get better connected and embedded in community. And this is very exciting. This one is still in the works, just as the one is with you. But we are continuing to be very optimistic that everything can get stuck in the weeds in a big bureaucracy. Things get political. We don't have a formal signed agreement, but we anticipate having that within the next few weeks. And then we have the book sale. All these partners wanted the book sale because it is a very successful fundraiser. It's funded a quarter of our annual operating budget for many years. And we knew that we could not just give it to one organization. We wanted to share the wealth, if you will, and make sure that the proceeds continued to invest in early childhood literacy and innovation in this space, and hopefully more collaboration. So the book sale is happening right now. We've asked people to come look at it. Most people are surprised when they get there. They can't believe it's as big as it really is. They're imagining a flea market where you could buy a couple of books. It is a machine. We've operated it for 18 years, and we know how to make this happen. Our annual budget is typically about 10% of proceeds. And this year, for the first time, we also have a 4-year commitment from Jamin Built to be a $25,000 sponsor this year and going forward, should Rotary want that. So the proposal that we're asking for is that Rotary help get integrated into this with our incredible volunteer committee, that you also consider helping with this year-round book collection and distribution, which is our children's book bank, and that the proceeds some of the proceeds would be contributed back to the Little Red Reading House / book bank. And then the rest of the funds would be able to be accessible by either invitation or through seed grants, which would be small gifts. And last night's conversation, Steve gave me a good idea of what we might consider and how we could think about these little seed grants through Twitter and social media and Instagram, and see who's actually doing activity and keeping the conversation of early literacy alive. These, again, are all the partners that we work with. So Rotary suddenly becomes connected to a really rich network of community organizations all striving together for this grade 3 reading outcome for children. This was just another fun illustration where we're trying to say there's something here with the dandelion. We're not completely sure what it is, but it does represent all the parts, all the possibility of what we could do together as we think about having May dandelion season, which reminds people all the time of the importance of getting engaged in childhood literacy, be it in your time or your donations or coming to the book sale and buying books. And this is a group of volunteers who are committed to trying to figure out how you run a social change campaign that can really change behavior in people, which ultimately we want more people reading more often with their children. So we are releasing and letting go and bursting forth in a new way with a bit of bittersweetness to it all, but with joyful abandon. And that's what's up with Calgary Reads.
Thank you so much, Stacey.
Steve.
Steve, can you pick up from there, please?
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Stacey and Manon. Stacey first, as Manon indicated, approached them a month or so ago, probably got to me just a little bit before that, because I'm not really a stranger to Calgary Reads, and nor is Rotary. I think our connections go back to early days of the Rotary Stay in School program at Valley View and Holy Cross, when we had a number of our Rotarians reading to some of the kids in those schools, including my wife Margie and Bill and Maggie Redmond. And when Calgary Reads began, they shifted over to be volunteer readers with Calgary Reads. Margie didn't stay around for that long because she had other commitments with family and so on. But I think Maggie Redmond was around for quite some time. I really developed, so my early days with the Stay in School program convinced me of the important need for early childhood literacy and some challenges in our community. And I learned even more about that when I co-chaired the Calgary Poverty Reduction Initiative. One of the really important elements of that was trying to ensure childhood literacy, that it was so important, as Stacey said, to so many other things in life. If you don't get those reading skills, those literacy skills, by the time you come out of grade 3, you're behind, and the chances are you will continue to fall behind. Rotary was also a big supporter of Calgary Reads throughout the years. We've given a number of grants for of programs that led to our Major Donations Committee kind of selecting Calgary Reads as a partner a few years ago, where we really tried to build a closer relationship with them. Stacey asked me to become a community champion of the organization. Catherine Brownlee is also a community champion. So when Stacey reported to the champions a month or so ago and told us about the dandelion strategy and the possibility of Rotary getting the big book sale, I was quite excited about the opportunity and volunteered to help co-chair or be the vice chair of a committee that would be chaired by Stacey, a new Rotarian, a relatively new member of our club, to advance this, because I see so many benefits for our club. I think it's an opportunity to really engage our members. Well, we've been seeking those opportunities. That means it's therefore an opportunity to retain members, to attract new members. I think Stacey's talked about the partners, the community partners that we would be involved in, opportunity to really collaborate in the community and to do something to focus on a cause, a really, really important cause where we can have an impact. We know how to run big fundraisers. We've run the barbecue. I think one of the early concerns with this is, do we have the manpower to take on the sale? And the answer to that is, we don't have all the arms and legs that can run the sale. We will work collaboratively with the team that is there now. This isn't really a takeover of the sale. It's a collaborative effort where we'll work with that team. And the indications are that they would like to stay on. Obviously, over the years, we'll have succession issues and all that sort of stuff, but I think those are things we can deal with. The sale generate is, I don't know if you mentioned this, Stacy, you're over $400,000 so far this year, which is kind of a new high, I gather. And so really, really good results. Very popular in the community. It's well respected, well known, and again, an opportunity to build our brand. And the proceeds would establish the Early Childhood Literacy Fund, which would be a committed fund for early childhood grants. And we also, Rotary also knows how to do that through our international committee, through our major donations, work through our legacy programs. We've gotten very good at working with organizations, getting to know them, making sure that our funding will have an impact. So I think this is a tremendous opportunity for Rotary to really pick up on a cause, and it just seems to fit in so many ways. So I'm really enthusiastic about it, and I would let Randy pick up, because as our incoming community services director, this would kind of fall under him. And I think it really fits well with some of the things we've been talking about in major donations.
Go ahead, Randy.
Great, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Steve and Manon. And Stacy. I really wanted to point out to start off that what's been presented and gifted to, if approved, from Stacy is such a tremendous opportunity for the Rotary Club, and I look at it very much as, quite honestly, a once in a lifetime opportunity for us to really, really support a cause with expertise and complete engagement from the club members to really build and support a club and make an impact in the community. I look to, back to some of the surveys that were conducted from major donations, and I look at Calgary Reads aligns directly with what our membership said that literally need to be financially supported in the community. So right from the very start, there's a nice connection back to what our membership is speaking to. And I looked at it too, when I look at it taking over from community services, and it's just thoughts on a broader perspective. I think it's an opportunity from taking on the expertise with Calgary Reads and trying to see how that fits into Rotary, of looking beyond that and saying, what is the Rotary's legacy going to be in the community? And so as the organization underneath the early childhood literacy umbrella starts getting integrated, they can start looking at trying to create that legacy for Rotary and making the biggest impact that Rotary can for literacy in the community. It's an opportunity to have members engaged in fundraising, fellowship through the book sale from the ground up. We can start engaging in strategic planning, funding decisions on the programs along the way, and to build a literacy legacy from the membership up. It's also an opportunity for the various Rotaries committees to work together. As this is a longer term process to build a legacy, legacy projects can be involved, obviously communications, fundraising, membership, adult literacy, and even connecting into the hubs and working with hubs to say, how can we grow programs using engagement with the hubs group to help build the legacy. And so we will set a foundation of building an early childhood literacy committee within the club. And it's an opportunity also for Rotary clubs to participate in the programs as we continue to grow them. We'll be able to choose our strategic funding partners, our corporate strategic funding partners. We can build on the existing corporate relationships that Calgary Reads has in place. And this should set in place a platform to attract new members as we are building to support a cause which is appealing to potential young members, as research is showing that the younger generation is very focused on supporting causes, and this could be very attractive to attracting new members. And so really what we're doing is working with fellow Rotarians in collaboration for a common cause, something we're all trying to strive to and build meaning for members in the club. So physically where this will sit is under community services. Early childhood literacy committee will be put in place, and it'll sit alongside adult literacy and community services. It's a natural fit to have the two literacy arms fundamentally under a literacy umbrella. And hopefully there's synergies at some point to look at growing both arms of the literacy through the club. There will be a call for volunteers to sit on the committee, which is exciting. It's exciting for members to be part of a program that's being introduced to the club from the beginning, right through establishing the legacy. Quick financially, literally, this will sit in the community services, but it'll be over the independent item for the revenues coming in and the expenses with the book sale, and on the counter side to that.
Randy, could you just
for
repeat
good
that
governance
sentence?
on the committee structure and good
Randy, could you please
Oh.
repeat that sentence? Because I don't know about others, but you seem to be choppy in that sentence and we didn't connect all the ideas.
on the budget piece.
Yes, on the budget, please.
On the budget piece, yeah, it'll fit on the community services budget. There will be basically a revenue line for the revenue being drawn in from the book sale, and the offset will be through the expenses associated with the book sale, and then the other expenses associated with what's coming in from Calgary Reads. The committee structure will be set up for good governance and continuity. Continuity really came up, it was important last night. So through our guidelines and processes within Rotary, we'll set up terms of reference will be developed by the committee and approved by the board. And one of that will have to be looking obviously at continuity, because we're here for the long haul on this. Guidelines and procedures for running a committee will be developed. There'll be policies that need to be put in place, from everything from conflict of interest to funding policies. This would be in alignment with other committees that currently distribute funds, like major donations, small donations, World Community Services, so we can build off those processes that are in place there. Funding criteria, the early ECL committee will put in funding criteria and an evaluation process to evaluate applications for funding that will come through. And then a strategic plan for creating the we'll call it for now the Rotary legacy, will be developed to create focus and build continuity within the organization to keep this platform moving forward. From a diligence perspective, we're going through a detailed transfer list right now with Calgary Reads, and this will then generate our need to put in proper agreements, documentation, and so forth as we move forward. Last comments are, this is simply a fabulous opportunity to make a real impact right in the community and hopefully establish ourselves as a leading supporter for literacy in Calgary.
Thank you very much, Randy. That's great. And Kurt, if you want to succinctly state your perspective of what you learned in that recent workshop that is aligned with this proposal.
Thank you, President Minot. One of the major focuses of Rotary is membership over the last number of years. And its real concern to Rotary is declining membership, not just in, say, our club, our district, but it's in North America, Western Europe, Australia, and New Zealand. And in my journey to becoming district governor, I've been to countless webinars and seminars and discussions on membership. Most of them, the thoughts that they come up with, their ideas, well, first of all, going hammering that we've got a problem. The next one is things like, well, you should look at developing a new club type, develop a satellite club. Yeah, but that's kind of vague. How do we find 2025 new individuals to join this new club we've created? Again, too vague. A couple of weeks ago, I was on the absolute best, bar none, membership webinar I've been on through the last year and a half of going to, innumerable webinars and sessions. 3 speakers, all with similar-ish messages, talking about their actual experiences in increasing membership in their clubs. One of the first speakers, the first speaker, first of all said, one of the things that is pretty obvious, having a legacy project that donates a large amount of money to get Rotary's name on the wall of a building is not successful in attracting or retaining members. If it was successful, we wouldn't have a membership problem. That's simple. So you have to do something different. All 3 of these speakers in their clubs, what they did differently was a lot of hands-on volunteering and service activities of various sizes, depending on the size of their club. And it wasn't just getting Rotarians out volunteering and being of service. Every one of them, the 3 of them, their strategy was when they went to go to be of service was to be partnering with a local NGO and getting people from their pool of volunteers to volunteer side by side with Rotarians on an initiative. So now you've got community members, Rotarians doing hands-on volunteering, being of service together. And the Rotarians are talking to the people they're working with, the volunteers they're working with all the time. They're talking about Rotary. The people can see Rotarians in action, see Rotarians being of service. These people already have a mindset of being in service, or they would not be volunteering at all for the NGO or the charitable organization. The first speaker, their club is a club of 70 people, and they've got a volunteer list of 600 people that they send out notices to about upcoming volunteer events. It's a much smaller club than ours, so the events are much different scale. But here we have 1,000, 1,200 volunteers already associated with Calgary Reads that will be our pool of volunteers working side by side with Rotarians. Will every one of them become a Rotarian? No, not everyone by any means, but will it attract some of them to be Rotarians? Without a doubt. That's what I have to say this morning. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak, Minnow.
Thank you very much, Kurt. Yes, I attended that one as well. It just blew my mind what these clubs were doing. And one club actually doubled their membership. They went from, was it 40 to 80 or 20 to 60 or something? It was
20 to 60.
20
Yeah,
to
it's
60.
for the last 2 years, it's been the largest growing club in North America.
So we should pay attention to these things and see, is that how can we do that? Or should we even be doing it? So what I'm going to do now is open this up for questions or comments. As I mentioned in the chat, if you want to use, if you can, please use the reactions button at the bottom of your Zoom window and click on raise hand. And that way you'll show up at the top of my screen and I'll be able to ask you to unmute. So who has a comment or a question?
Well, at
Okay.
the risk of not raising the hand as I was instructed, I'll jump in.
Okay, go ahead, Roy.
This is Stacy. First of all, thank you for that background. I wasn't aware of the breadth and depth of Calgary Reads, and so I'm happy to hear that. What strikes me is that this the idea of Rotary Reads, and I always come back to this question on a greater than just our club, but a community project. And Manon, I'm wondering if this is something that either has or would you take to the All Presidents meetings to see to what extent we might receive support from other clubs. And early days, I get that. I mean, I love the idea of everything you said about literacy is no surprise to me at all. I've got two grandkids. Well, both my daughters grew up being read to at night and have been voracious readers their whole life, and so are both grandkids. So you know, I'm full on that. But I'm wondering, you know, to the extent that we say Rotary Reads, is this a project that we're proposing to put out to all of the Calgary Rotary clubs as an opportunity, not here, it's the big downtown club and we're telling you what you have to do, but are we going to try and engage other clubs as well? And is that on the program, or has there been some preliminary discussion with them?
I've already had conversations with other clubs, in particular the Stampede Club, because Jim and Pat Burns were the benefactors for the Little Red Reading House. And as Rotarians, they were one of the first people that I talked with about the dandelion strategy. And Jim immediately asked that I talk with the president of the club. I also talked with the West Club because Marlene Doherty and I were in junior league together, so we have a relationship, and I just wanted to see if there was potential for an interclub opportunity, recognizing that some of the other clubs appear to be more volunteer active than the downtown club, and I do think it would require all the clubs. They were very enthusiastic about the idea. They'd actually all like it. But because my husband and I joined the downtown club, we are giving you the first opportunity, but I think many others will want to be involved as well.
And then as a supplemental to that, on the funding, this would be, I presume, similar to the Stay in School, that the Stay in School golf tournament, the funds are dedicated to that program. So on Calgary Reads, it would be dedicated to that suite of programs, and maybe even expanding other ones. I could see this, and I would love it if it became something that grew into more programs, because accessibility to reading and literacy, I mean, particularly with the kids trying to learn while their teachers are speaking through masks, even the pronunciation, quite apart from the word glossary, has been a challenge these last 2 years. And I'll let others speak, but I think this is a fabulous opportunity. And you know, the big barbecues were social opportunities, and this is another great social opportunity that will, I think, be along the lines of that. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Roy, for your comments. Okay, let's go to Barb, and then Howie, and then Rob.
Well, I've had some discussion offline with the fact that there are 2 book sales that go on simultaneously. And I wonder if you could speak to why that is happening and how that impacts what happens with the reading book sale.
Yeah, this has been occurring for the last little while. The other book sale, the other book sale, the proceeds go to Servants Anonymous, another very worthy cause. At one point, we were at different times of the year, but we have always been more successful as a book club, whether it's recruiting the volunteers or raising more money. And somewhere along the line, they decided in their strategy that they should piggyback on our book sale so that they could take our leftovers and they could also benefit from the media that we were getting, because CBC has been a partner for ours for a long time. They since have gotten the Herald. So now you have a bit of media wars because these two media institutions each support their own. We have met with them. I probably have met with them at least 5 or 6 times asking to either collaborate and hold one sale, or could they please change the time of year when their sale is, which would be more beneficial to Calgarians who are cleaning out their cupboards. We have no opportunity to change ours as long as we're at the curling club. We have to wait till the ice is out, and we only have the short period of time before the staff are laid off for the summer. In their case, we have suggested they be a fall sale, but because we still continue, both of us, to make good proceeds, I don't think anybody has wanted to mess with the formula on their end. They were not even going to have a sale this year. And then when we announced our dates, they're happening right now. So anyways, it's very unfortunate, but we've tried.
Howie, please go ahead.
Thanks, Stacy. Thanks for the presentation. This sounds like a wonderful opportunity, and you and I have met a few times before, and you know how personally I'm very passionate about early reading and early childhood development, and that's a direction that it's always been a dream with the community hubs and with my involvement with the YMCA as well, and the police service. But couple of questions. We've heard, I'll try and keep it brief, but with 2 or 3 questions here, and I'll give them to you all at once. In the development in the poverty reduction space, we've heard and talked a lot about systems planning and systems development. So the Homeless Foundation is working to try to align all of the people working in the homeless space together. And the food bank, and I know Franco and Steve are working with those groups, are trying to put something together. But when I look at this and the chart that I'm looking at right now with the Little Red Reading House and all your partners, it seems to me that you're the systems manager for the early childhood development reading space. I could be wrong on that, but the way that you've been able to execute your dandelion strategy and put it off to so many different partners in such short order seems to tell me that you're an acknowledged systems manager, systems curator, head manager within the ecosystem of reading and early childhood development. So I'm wondering, how does that continue on? And are you, is that something you're looking for Rotary to do, or what happens with that aspect of it? Or do we have a big loss and that we need to go back and look at somebody else to become that systems planner? And I ask that, I know that there are folks heavily into the early childhood development space, like, and I've forgotten the name of it, but Nancy Mannix's group on the brain development and et cetera. And then we hear people like Bonnie Kaplan advancing work on nutrients and the work that Deb Heimers does as well. So that's kind of one question. The other question I have is around the project management. I'm personally for this. So the questions I ask will sound negative, but I personally support the project. I just want to make that clear. And I think this would be a great opportunity for Rotary. But being a bean counter and kind of board education, I've got to ask about the risk management piece of this thing. So I've heard all of the great, wonderful things that'll happen. What are the risks? What are the things that we need to be very cognizant of to make sure that we execute properly? And I would ask that in the context that a lot of fundraisers are managed actually outside, but they're either managed by a social enterprise or by a social different. The CIBC Run for the Cure has a different management body. We've seen the Ride to Conquer Cancer. There's a for-profit entity outside of the not-for-profit entity. The Foothills, the lotteries that we see operated are also operated on the same basis. There's a professional organization from Saskatoon that manages virtually all of the major multi-million-dollar lotteries across the country, except for the Stampede one. So I was wondering if you had any thought about that, because you've got a very valuable asset with the big book thing. That's the thing that you'd want to really protect. And if Rotary messes it up, then can you retain it to pass on to somebody else? I don't think we would, but we need to think about turf protection there. So those are kind of my two questions: the system management piece, and then the professional management required to execute this wonderful sale that you have. And let me reiterate, I believe I'm asking tough questions, but I'm a big supporter of this. So.
Yeah, thanks, Howie. I'll answer the first one. Yes, I am often the crazy lady on the hill trying to raise a ruckus and get people's attention to work together. I'm not retiring. I intend to continue to fight this fight until we see better progress. Two ways that it will continue, there's many ways that we've built into this strategy, which I haven't spoken to, but we are doing a year-long evaluation. We've contracted the Trico Change Lab to follow these partners and bring them together over the course of this year. I will be a part of that evaluation process to kind of watchdog and see what's happening. Rotary will have to agree to be part of that evaluation process as one of the seed partners. We also have, under the poverty reduction strategy, a collaborative working group that addresses the early child care and early learning and literacy lever under the poverty reduction. I'm currently the chair of the 369 lever. It's called that because 3-year-old vocabulary predicts 6-year-old reading, and then 9 years. They've asked me to continue to stay on to chair that lever, but I have asked Dr. Susan Graham, who is the lead of the Awerco Center, to co-chair. The seed partners, many of the seed partners have been a part of this action group, which is how we know each other, and other people are invited to attend. I would strongly recommend that Rotary might want to consider also having a seat at the poverty reduction table on the 369 lever. So that will continue, and that is part of the systems work that needs to never be forgotten. And then we just received funding this week, $500,000, and we're going to convene a literacy lab, which is a 2-year comprehensive mapping the system of literacy process. And I think this is another really exciting opportunity for Rotary to be able to be part of this. And this also will be facilitated by Lena Suits at the Trico Changemaker Lab. And James Stotch is also going to, we've contracted him to do a case study, and Chevron is sponsoring the case study. So we are recognizing that we're breaking apart the system of Calgary Reads, and we have to be responsible for rebuilding and reconfiguring a stronger set of network ties and system connections. And that is a part of the work that I will do, be it paid or volunteer. The other one, in terms of risk, the biggest risk, I believe, is the culture of our book sale committee and the volunteers. I think it will be very important that Rotary come in gently, that they learn, they don't mess with the formula to any degree until we figure out if there's better ways to do it. Right now, I do pay an honorarium to my 2 co-chairs. We have built that into the budget, and they have agreed to stay on should we want to go in that direction. We also have an admin person. Dawn has worked with me for the last 17 years. She will be going over to the Little Red Reading House and Book Bank. And we have already told the university that during the month of the book sale, she would need to be allocated full time to managing the volunteers and helping support the chairs and the Rotary to make this a success. So all of those are open to continue. And it's our expectation that we will, we have a lot of money. Calgary Reads, this is not a going out of business because we're bankrupt situation. And so it's my intention that everything we need to transition, we need a new brand, new banners, new new aprons. There's a lot that goes into the book sale. I'm anticipating that we would transfer all those funds to Rotary and make sure that it is set up in this transition year for success, to be able to keep the people and come out with a really fun and funky new look, and new aprons, and all those things cost money. And so there really isn't risk. Certainly not financial risk, because we also have a $25,000 sponsor who Jamin built, who is also on side for the next 3 years still. So there's potentially $75,000 already to kickstart this into the next year.
Okay, thank you so much, Stacy. Rob, go ahead.
Thanks to all of those that helped me understand this a whole lot more this morning. I've come away with a number of questions. I won't go into them all. My focus is more along the lines of, pardon me, what Howie and Roy and Randy have talked about. The strategic merit of this is obvious. I'm a big supporter of the concept, but I've spent my entire time in Rotary in the back office side of things, and been involved in how these things actually get executed and how we make them sustainable. And that's my biggest concern is, it's great to say what a wonderful opportunity this is, but how are we actually going to make this all work is something I haven't really heard yet. And what I get to is, we currently have commitments for stay in school and a volunteer base that tries to work towards that. We're trying to revive our community barbecue efforts and the volunteer base that's required to support that. We're effectively saying, let's take on another very major volunteer effort that requires an infrastructure within Rotary to keep it going and to keep it surviving for more than a short-term period. And I'm not sure if we've got all of those pieces puzzled together yet to see this successful for the long term. That concerns me. Having been experienced in what things have worked and what things haven't worked over the years, I'm very concerned that we need a core group of Rotary members that can help interface with Stacy's existing team and learn from them to be able to transition into a successful, sustainable model going forward. And that's no easy task. I've been involved in trying to do that, and this is not a simple thing to just, okay, we're going to do this and on we go, we're all done. That's a big piece of this, and I think we need to hear more about that.
Well, Rob, I think you're absolutely right. We don't have I think what we have is an operating entity in the book sale that functions very well. As Stacy said, and I think I said too, this isn't a takeover. It's not, putting our elbows up and we know how to do this, because we don't. This is very much how do we guide this? How do we nurture it along? How do we, work alongside with them so that we can ensure that there is succession? I think, there's people on the call right now that can help with that. It's more of, being strategic, being focused. It's a governance issue. We don't have volunteers that are going to replace people and the workers. I think we are more of, I view it more along the lines of governance. How do we kind of take this? How do we understand it? How do we move it along and ensure that it's going to have that long-term success? And I think we can do that. It's going to take some attention. It's going to take some commitment. And I think on the literacy fund, I think we have the expertise to do that. As to say, we've done major donations, and we do our international work. I think we are pretty good at that side of it, and particularly with Stacey's help and guidance on all of this. And I think it's important that we stay plugged into the network, as Howie's indicated. We don't want to break it up and then become all siloed. How can we help to be part of this ecosystem that's going to drive this change forward? So I understand the challenges, and I think it's good for us all to recognize those. It's going to take some commitment, and I think but I really do see it as a more of a high level strategic governance approach, taking the business, if you can call it that we have, and ensuring that it's sustainable as we move forward.
I would say, Rob, too, we definitely do not have it all figured out. This is all, an opportunity. Sometimes the opportunity presents itself, and then you got to back up and go, okay, how are we going to really make this work? As much as it's a governance and a strategy opportunity, I also see it as it is going to be really integral that we have a strong communication strategy, because we need to keep these people engaged and trusting that they are welcome back next year. And we have very good communications people, and I'm sure Rotary does too. So I see this as another subgroup that needs to, and thankfully we have a year before we have another sale to work through some of these opportunities and come up with the processes that are required to ensure. Even we asked every year for the past 18 years, what happens if next year no one volunteers? What happens if our committee all retires? And we've been very lucky to keep it going. And what if people stop donating books? This is the whole beginning of the sale. Without that deep community engagement, saving and donating their books, you don't have the inventory to have a successful sale. So it even goes beyond the volunteers. It's a lot of people, and they love us, and they can love you too.
Yeah, Rob, I'd also add, you raised some very, very good points. And I mean, obviously it's, with things as the club evolves, we want to make sure that we can try and create some engagement. And, a couple of people have mentioned that communication. So if I take just from the club's perspective of getting people engaged, that's the thought process, obviously, of really forming the early childhood literacy committee, recognizing it's probably going to be fluid. But I think this is a situation where communication, really from the ground up, it's going to be a lot of it will be tied to educating members on the impact this could have. So it's going to be I'm going to call it fairly intensive. Ground up communication, not just communication saying this is what we should do. It's going to be education on how this is going to impact the community, how you can be involved in impact the community, and the opportunities for members, because not every member will want to participate in the same way. So we have to keep an open dialogue that our membership can participate in a number of ways, and depending on time commitments, depending on their background. And so that has to be that, and that will be a focus of how we pull people in. But part of that ends up being, as it's an education piece, and getting members informed how this really is going to impact the community. And I believe with that kind of focus of the impact they can make, I think it will start attracting people. But just like probably all of us on the call, or a lot of us on the call, it ends up being let's really understand the impact this can make. And I think if we create that excitement that it can make, and be flexible to how what our members can contribute, I think we'll see a lot of involvement. So, but it is going to have to be a focus. There's no question about that. And, but the communication piece to our members is going to be very important.
Thanks, everyone, and the discussion on that point. Howie, go ahead. And welcome, Bruce. Just saw you jump in.
I just like to scratch the surface a bit deeper on the membership involvement. This is a wonderful opportunity, and I get that a lot of people would like to be involved in the membership. But I'm kind of, I'm an accountant, so we look at what's happened in the past and we try to measure, well, what's happened in the past, and does past behavior indicate what's going to happen in the future? So when I look harshly at the membership piece, I know for the big barbecues we did, we only had 150 members and we had 900 volunteers. So we had to really dig into outside community. So that's okay. That's the checkbox. Christmas hampers, which I'm intimately involved with, the membership component of that is probably 1/3 or 1/4, other than the donations. We get a lot of donations from members, but even the donation piece, we rely outside of members. So, we leverage other people's opportunities. I understand, and I could be wrong on this, so somebody tell me, on the Tom Jackson Stay in School program, it was difficult acquiring more members to mentor on a wonderful program that's just, on a program that's just the center of Canada today on truth and reconciliation, and everybody talking about it. We had a difficult time getting volunteers for that. Sean Bayless, as late as last week, has talked about a difficulty getting members to volunteer, and that we have more capacity to take on more students, but we're short on the mentor piece of it. So, it's great for us to talk about it. Are we doing something wrong in terms of not getting it, or do we need to really focus in on proving that we can walk the talk of getting members involved in projects? I know for the little school barbecues that we did, the community barbecues that we did at the number of schools, it was always a chase up to the last day as to whether or not we would have enough people to fulfill a barbecue that required 10 or 12 volunteers out there. And it always got done, and we'd always have a few extra volunteers. So again, it's not necessarily to be critical. I think there's a way, and we've proved that with the big barbecues, that we can go out and get more things. Calgary, our volunteers and Calgary Reads has done. But if we're looking at this as focusing on a way to drive membership and get members engaged, I'm not sure that our past history shows that that strategy will work here.
I think you have to have a new strategy.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work. And this is an opportunity to build a new strategy. And I think using the examples that you just shared, our mantra, if you will, at Calgary Reads has always been, let's link, align, and leverage our relationships. And so the volunteers who volunteer for the book sale become an incredible pool for you to recruit for mentors for Stay in School. The school barbecues, like every time you cluster your activities through this linking, aligning, and leveraging, you exponentially add more engagement through certain people. There will always be the vast majority of the public that does not really get engaged. They might have another motive for why they are part of a club, or, and there seems to be a concentrated core that you can leverage to do many, many different things for you. And I would say, as a new Rotarian, you see this in action in your club all the time. It's a small subset of your membership that are working together. And the more we can overlap and overlay and align and leverage, the more impactful and easier it is for the core group to do what needs to get done.
And Howie, from a personal perspective, I volunteered as checking out and doing all the credit card stuff for people buying their books on the day before the sale opened. The day before the sale opens is the day that volunteers get first pick at all the books. And you can be sure that these volunteers will be there next year. They love books. They love having first crack at the books, and they love the cause. And so with those three massive levers in place, even some of our Rotarians were volunteering on the floor. Everybody loves doing it. So when you get that kind of a positive feel from something, you're engaged already for the next year. So I think the key thing is the communication that happens between the end of this sale and the recruiting of the next sale. And just like Stacy said, the reinforcement of how important they are, how much fun this is, how much good it does in the community, and how we still cherish these volunteers year after year, regardless of who's the organization behind it. Because the thing itself, the book sale itself, is an awesome event, pulling the entire Calgary community together. Okay, let's go to Franco and then Rob again.
Thank you, Manon, and thanks everyone. I'm absolutely fascinated and with the potential, and relative to the discussion on membership, I don't think we can be talking about our current membership. I'd be building on what Kurt was suggesting and what a little bit Randy was suggesting. Catherine Shears keeps talking about the social media and the kind of stuff, is that this really is an issue that we're going to identify with and recruit people who are interested in this issue. Okay, so that would be the kind of stuff. These are people in the community that says, oh my God, literally, see, is my issue. I can now use the Rotary platform to advance it. So I think Stacy, to your point, I think there's always a small subgroup in the club right now that could champion this, but it won't be the current membership that's going to drive this. Like I totally agree with what Howie's saying. The struggle that we have, we keep going to the same people for all kinds of reasons. Very limited pickup in terms of actual hands-on. But the question here would become, so that would be just a comment I would have. The other comment I would be saying is we think through this process, I think it's important for us as Rotarians, but Stacy, it might be great, in fact, some of your key volunteer leadership and some Rotarians to get together even before we sign a contract and then saying, geez, what we're thinking about. And they can say, well, what the hell is Rotary? Like maybe they've never had any experience with Rotary and we have not. So as part of this process, a small suggestion might be that in fact, we might have this kind of thing, but not with just Rotarians, some Rotarians and people that have been involved in the work to say, here's what we're thinking. Anyway, just a suggestion.
Yeah, we have pretty complex and detailed transition plans with each of our seed partners. And once the seed partner is in a position to move it forward, there are lots of conversations along the way before the lawyers. We have lawyers working with each of the relationships on the agreements so that we come together to a shared understanding of what are the terms of the gift and what is the responsibility to carry the gift forward. So you're absolutely right. There's many conversations ahead with all sides of the people that would be involved.
My only comment, Menno, is it's great to have aspirational goals, which I'm hearing all over the place here. I think Randy has a challenge ahead of him to put a small core team together to deal with what Stacy was just saying, because we've got to get some traction before we start to think that this is just going to be a slam dunk.
Absolutely. Yep. Good. Any further questions, comments? Brian, do you have anything?
I see there's two facets to this that I get, is the actual sale, the management of the volunteers, the doing this, the promotion for the sale, all that, and the actual sale. And then there's also the other side of it, is the disbursement of the raised money. Is Rotary going to be involved in both sides of that? And that's the question. And then the management of that. I mean, where would it fit into our existing programs? We'd have to have a separate committee, I think, that would do this. And we'd have two committees, one for the sale, one for the actual disbursement of funds. That's kind of, am I reading that right? Is that?
Yeah, I think so, Brian. What we have right now is a committee that Stacy is chair and I'm vice chair, looking at how we move this into Rotary and how we move it forward. So we don't have all the answers yet, but logically we would have we will create a committee with the Early Childhood Literacy Fund that would be like a trustees of that fund who would deploy those funds, and we would have another group that would oversee the book sale and work with the book sale. But we haven't got all of that sort of.
I didn't think we had it all worked out, but I just see that from the 10,000 foot looking down at it, it appears that we need two separate functioning committees that will work on. And my thinking is well, maybe this could be part of our stay in school program. It would fit right into that. And the other thing is on the disbursements, our donations committees would manage it, simply because we have that in place already of people that are good at assessing disbursements, and that's all that comes up for me. Lots of questions that have been asked already. I hear them, but I'm actually thinking this would be a great thing for Rotary to take on, simply because of its it's a huge community. I know it's well liked in the community. It's well thought of, and it's a good program. So I'm very positive in it. I mean, yes, of course, there's questions that we have to figure out. But,
Thanks, Brian. Bob, we don't see you, but you're there. Do you have any questions or comments?
No, I think everybody's done the questions and answers very well, and glad to be in on this discussion.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Bruce, you came in a little towards the end. Do you have any questions about what you've heard or?
No, I don't have any real questions. I just like to stay informed as to where you want to go and what you want to lay down. Okay. If I can be a part of it, that would be great.
Awesome. I am recording all of these sessions, and they will, the links will come out in Tuesday's COG. So you'll be able to hear every single session. And Charles, you just came in like
yes,
3 minutes ago.
I am so sorry, but I listened to a few things that people were saying. I personally support this project, and I just want to listen, get myself informed, and you can be assured of my support in this area.
Okay, thank you. Any closing comments from anybody? I really appreciate everybody staying on till 9:20. Went a little longer, but that's okay. We take the time that we need to take to make sure everybody's informed. Okay, well, thank you very much. Oh yeah, Stacy, your hand is up.
I just want to, and I don't know, maybe Monday morning, the sale will be over. We have an interview scheduled for with Angela Knight. We usually report on the proceeds of the sale. At that point, we are also going to be going public with our dandelion strategy. We are very aware that both University in Calgary and Rotary are not across the finish line yet. We have permission from both presidents that we can say we are in conversation with you. So you will hear Rotary on the air perhaps and in our news releases, and we're expecting to get some pretty good media coverage as a result of this. The Rotary clubs that we reference hopefully is the downtown club, but we also have Rotary clubs in the wings. So when we say Rotary clubs, it doesn't necessarily mean you, because you were not able to make a firm decision before we go public on May 16th. So I think that's worth reminding people that it is not a done deal, and we know that it's not. But we will be saying Rotary because people have just come off the sale and they will be very worried about what is going to happen to the future of the sale. So we want to reassure them that it isn't just disappearing. We are in conversation with new partners.
Awesome. Thanks for that clarification. Good. Okay. Well, barring any other questions, I think this was a successful town hall with lots of great ideas and lots of great conversation.
Well, Manon, what's the next step?
The next step is more communication to the club,
Okay.
and more specifically the board, to figure out what the next step is. So technically, the decision to move ahead technically is at the board level. However, it has been mentioned that it would be great to get a club vote in support of this, because that's when we'll see how many people are in fact engaged and want to move forward with this. So the board needs to figure that out. We have a board meeting next week. So we'll be discussing that on Wednesday morning at the board meeting. And in the interim, we're going to continue educating and informing. And the way it's going to look next week is all of these town hall videos are going to be made available. And we're going to urge people to do that. I will also be sending each one of the people who have attended the town halls to reach out to other people who have not attended the town hall to have a discussion, to ask the question, you didn't go to the town hall. Do you know what this is about? Have a look at the videos, because I can't do it myself. Stacy can't do it herself. Neither can Steve or Randy, but all of us together will be able to reach out. It's the dandelion thing, right? We are now all dandelion seeds. We all have to go out individually and chat with one or two club members. If you're in a breakout room next Tuesday at the club meeting, bring it up. If you come to the in-person meeting on the 24th, bring it up. Talk to people so that it's not hitting people like a big fat surprise when we say, guess what? We've done this. We're going to do it. And people go, I don't know anything about it. We cannot communicate enough on this. And you're laughing, Charles, because you know that that's what's going to happen, right? Despite the fact that we will have put articles in the COG, we will have talked about it. I talk about it every week. I've been talking about it every week, and yet people will still, in a couple of weeks' time, not know what this is about. And I mean, it's a great point. It's a great risk that we're taking to say that we're going to commit our club members' time, and they don't know about this. So it's a big communication exercise. We need to be very diligent in doing it. So
the other piece, Charles, for
Stacy,
yeah,
Stacy, you can also answer this question. Do you need any help from the Rotary Club of Calgary with regard to the other Rotary clubs?
No, I've already talked with presidents at several of them. I don't feel like we need to talk to them yet until we know what the position of the downtown club is. So we're just waiting on that decision. The other piece to add, we're very appreciative of the care that's being taken to communicate this opportunity to the club, but there's also a bit of a time limitation on it, because we cannot dissolve our charity until we have finished divesting of every single asset. And my board was scheduled to begin dissolution the end of June, which means we have a lot of work to do to transition this opportunity And at some point, I'm expecting my board will say, okay, enough already. If they can't decide, we got to move on, because we are not indefinitely going to continue to exist. So
Right.
trying to manage both sides of that.
Yes.
So-
Pretty
so-
tricky.
But that's a really important point, if I can just interject. So just so that I'm kind of clear, because I think urgency sometimes forces us to move, you know, you don't have all the time in the world. You've just mentioned a particular time frame. How, like, that sounds, is that fairly sooner the better? That's what I'm hearing. But is the outside date the end of June? Sorry, Stacy, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but
Yeah, initially it was, but the university is still quite a process too. So
right,
we are committed to at least retain all operations until the fall, until September 5th.
okay,
But again, summer, not
Yeah,
a
totally.
lot happens in the summer. So
Yeah.
we're trying to wrap up as many of our asset transfers. You know, we've shared, each partner has a comprehensive list of everything that has to be talked through and considered. And so June will be busy as we try to catch people before summer break, and then be able to move into dissolution from September to December.
sure.
So
Thank you. That's helpful. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I wish you all a great Friday. Woohoo, here comes the weekend. I look forward to seeing some of you at district convention or conference tomorrow in Cochrane. And thanks again, everyone, for your participation and your questions.
Oh, Manon, I just throw it
Yeah.
out to the floor. Do we need to just chat about anything before we?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you and I can chat.
Next steps, just.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I've got a,